The following is a verbatim reenactment in the Adams County Kangaroo Courts.
And I asked why the judges were getting off the case and what the conflict was. And I can't recall exactly what it was.
Because they hid my triple attempted murder and stabbing?
I'm sorry, what?
Because they hid my triple attempted murder and stabbing, Your Honor, in this courtroom, right here.
Okay. I got the impression it was because what was I going to say?
The racketeering case?
No. Because the charges that you're charged with here, disorderly conduct and everything that happened in the courthouse, it's their courthouse. They didn't think it'd be appropriate for them to deal with it.
This is the same courthouse that they hid my triple attempted murder and stabbing as well.
I know nothing about that.
And I'm suing them for racketeering.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just explaining this to you.
Likewise, Your Honor. Thank you for giving me the time.
So I get a call from the court administrator's office in Adams County. I had gotten the idea from Diane that I was going to have the call that said this case was scheduled for Monday, which was your trial was originally scheduled for the have to be continued, and Judge George shouldn't be doing it because he's off the case. Could I do it? I just worked on the assumption that the order from the Supreme Court had been signed, but it hadn't been. But I did issue that order continuing the case until January 31st. I admit that I had no authority to do that whatsoever, but on the 12th, as you saw from the order, I am now legally assigned to this case. So I just want to let you know.
But you had made a ruling prior to that outside of your jurisdiction, Your Honor.
I did, right? I'm confessing. But I don't think any harm came of that because the case wasn't going to be held on the 12th. Nothing occurred anyway.
So you just testified as to why you made the ruling prior to the record? So I gotta hit pause right there and show you our first trap for the judge. This is a two-part rope-a-dope setup. Do you see here where I slipped testify in the beginning, then finish with him making a ginormous judicial no-no by issuing an order outside of his jurisdiction? Well, a sitting judge providing testimony instantly disqualifies himself from the matter due to Rule of Evidentiary Procedure 605. Judge cannot be a witness. But we follow that up with his error he's explaining, clenching his word as witness to these events.
Because I got the call that said Judge George shouldn't be doing it because he's out of the case. So I wrote out the order after actually I was in York at that time. And I had one of the judicial assistants in York to type out the order for me, and I signed it, and then we plopped it down to Adams County.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. That is your testimony in this matter, which violates Rules of Evidentiary Procedure 605. Judge's competency as a witness.
Well, no, I'm not.
There's a motion to stay all of these proceedings until a recusal judge hears this. That was testimony. That's in violation of the Rules of Evidentiary Procedure, Rule 605.
Well, I don't consider it to be testimony.
I asked you if that was testimony and...
maybe I shouldn't have said that.
May I ask the court reporter to go back?
Well, I believe you that you said that.
But that was your testimony, Your Honor.
No, it was just that it's not testimony. It's my explanation to this. Right. I think we need to go forward here.
I don't think so. I think that instantly disqualifies you from the bench and we have to hold a recusal hearing. That's against the rules of procedure. Rules of Evidentiary Procedure 605.
Miss Chris, do you have anything to offer?
Your Honor, the Commonwealth avers that the remedy was corrected order that was signed by the Supreme Court assigning you to this case, and you have the proper authority over it. Quite frankly, I think the motions that the defendant has filed in terms of disqualification for Your Honor and for myself are frivolous. Of course, but obviously, that is issue, at least on behalf of the Commonwealth, for Your Honor to continue to preside over this case. However, it is clear that the defendant is going to assert that throughout the remainder of this proceeding. That does not address the bench's violation of Rule 605 of Evidentiary Procedure and the judge's competency as a witness providing testimony. Your Honor, I further do not, as you indicated in the beginning, or of when you first took the bench, this was an explanation to the defendant. I don't see it as testimony, but again, it is ultimately up for Your Honor to decide.
Yeah, I wasn't under oath or anything.
Correct. I believe that's just a technicality, and Your Honor, you were explaining what my motion to recuse you was for, which is not only testimony in a recusal hearing, but it's a violation of Rule 605, Rules of Evidentiary Procedure, and you're just going to ignore it?
I think you're wrong on that, but that's the way it is, so I'm willing to go forward.
Are you going to violate Rule 605 of Evidentiary Procedure? Well, defendant objects and motions for a reconsideration due to everything is headed to we need to hold a recusal hearing before we move forward with any of this, because all the evidence that I'm presenting ties in and explains why I was here that day legally as press, of which you were presiding over for the Ratowski case, which is a case I was here for. Well, not only is she the president of the county bar and suing for slander, but you also presided over the case in finalizing the separation of assets in the divorce, which is why I was here covering the corruption of the Adams County Courthouse.
Okay. Were you in this hearing?
Yes, I was.
So we've been following a court case in our courts that highlights more criminal judicial misconduct to seclude me from a public hearing without cause, especially because I'm investigating criminal challenge our First Amendment rights to cover this trial. Go in here and probably get arrested. I give it a 50-50. Here we go. Whoa. And this is Sheriff Deputy Josh Gilmore barring my entry to a public trial due to COVID policy while arresting me while violating COVID policy. Oh, hey, I don't consent. I don't consent. I don't consent. I don't consent.
I was telecasting that one where you finalized the divorce, where you authorized someone, the prothonotary, to sign Mr. Ratowski's name.
This is Judge Madenspacher forcing the sale of the family farm by authorizing the prothonotary to sign his name on the deed, giving Mr. Ratowski 1.5 hours to vacate the farm.
I was telecasting.
Oh, okay.
And this is us with our tiger in the courtroom. We had our spirit animal in the courtroom. Can you guys believe that? We actually pulled that off. And we just missed the constable right there. Coming in, he was wondering why Joe Exotic was in here. So, 25 minutes of that trial, I wasn't even allowed to hear what the hell was going on. And then when they did, the sound was all so fucked up after 25 minutes. The former president of the bar was in there testifying for 25 minutes. I had no idea what she was saying. Then when it came on, the sound was so screwed up that I couldn't hear 90% of what was said, and they knew about it the entire time. They kept on going on, and it was just, it's what you come to expect from Adams County.
Yeah, the IT didn't plug through sound for the first half hour, and then the rest of it sounded like Charlie Brown's parents talking through a can. That's how much corruption's going on in these courts, Your Honor. And I'm telling you, that's why you're here presiding over these cases. This is disorderly conduct. The guy that stabbed me pled out in this courtroom to disorderly conduct.
Really? So how'd you get off for stabbing me?
Well, I'm not off. I actually...
Yeah. You got off with murder, pulling your pistol on me.
Well, I'm sorry.
So you're in...
Which is the follow-on charge that the Commonwealth has covering the corruption of these courts. That's why I'm here. This entire case is a First Amendment right case. You've read my triple Lindy pretrial motion to disqualify or dismiss all charges. So I gotta pause right there and explain this triple Lindy pretrial motions. Linked below, I write up the real estate racket, bank fraud, and bankruptcy fraud perpetrated by the county courts and run it up into the Attorney General's office and into the federal courts. I attached all the evidence as exhibits and served it up to my prosecutor, who's the state attorney general. Go check it out. It's a good read. It's pretty laid out and everything's tied in. And this is not something I'm gonna give up on.
Well, that's part of the thing. I have plenty of information on that other case.
So I gotta pause right there. He's referring to the real estate fraud in the Ratowski divorce. He got this case from Master Judge John D. Kunobi, who, in his refuse to recuse order, authors Chapter D, 4 pages on my coverage of this corruption. This is why this puppet Judge Madenspacher got assigned this case. He knows all about it.
And I'll be quite frank, if I had known that there is a tie-in between that case and your case, I never would have accepted this case.
So would you therefore please recuse yourself, sir?
I think give me a 10-minute recess. I've come to the conclusion that I should recuse from this.
I'm sorry, sir?
Okay. I'm sure you're not happy with this, Mrs. Chris.
I'm not, Your Honor, but it's ultimately the court's decision.
It's pretty down here in Gettysburg.
Haha, did any of y'all notice that line seems a little out of context? Well, during the recess, me and prosecutor Chris had a little chit-chat. And I gotta tell you, she's every bit as much fun to talk to in person as she is to look at. The prosecutor's coming from Harrisburg. She's probably had to get up at like 4 to get her face did up and her hair did up and look good for me and all that stuff. So we look forward to seeing you in court. Prosecute her, Christine Christ. And she didn't disappoint. So what I actually said was,
it's pretty down here in Gettysburg. Now.
Hey, we're adjourned.
Yay! Alright, y'all. Our next hearing is scheduled sometime in March, and court attendance is open to the public. So subscribe and stay tuned for updates, because y'all can attend this here kangaroo court in person.